Ready to master IT skills? Explore all the educates now and transform your tech knowledge in no time. Jump in and give your career a new boost.
Hello and welcome to LB Educates. In this session we're going to look into 4 distinguishing topics that might come into your careers and you would need to handle them quite frequently. So the 4 topics that we're going to talk about today are the select methods, the JSExecutor or JavaScript executors, the headless browser, and lastly the action chains. So JavaScript executors and action chains could be used interchangeably in most of the instances, but let us start with the select method first. And in order to do that, first I'm going to create a test. Let's name it public void select method. Don't forget your camel notations. And I'm going to hit a different URL. Well, we've been working on this URL before and we jumped onto a different site. Well, for this video series we will be using both of them interchangeably, so I'll be using my source demo web application again. So I'll be hitting the URL directly from the web application here. Okay, now what are select tags and why are they used, and what and how do we use them in our automation testing? You will find mostly select tags placed in dropdowns, against dropdowns. So you can see when I inspect against this, I see a select tag here which identifies specifically to this drop down of this filter, right? So in order to work with that, we need to of course get its XPath first. So I'm going to get its XPath, and as you can see, when I try to get its XPath, it comes with a select tag itself, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to call upon select. Let's name it drop down. Let's name it filter drop down, or how about sort drop down equals to new select, and there we go. I'll just replace this with the actual XPath that we extracted from there. And what do we have here? So it's asking me to import the select class, and there we go. So now sort drop down. Now all of these methods are available to handle all of the values here that comes with the inside this drop down. So there are like 4 values that appear here: name A to Z, name Z to A, price low to high, price high to low. So all of them, and you can actually select let's start with select by visible text first, and then I'll talk about the most used select options in here. So I'm just going to pick up this text. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it here. So it's going to click on it, or it's going to select this option once it's going to invoke the select drop down. Let's pause the script for 3 seconds and see if this actually works or not. Also, I will be using the login procedure. I would require to use it actually. We have it here, so I'll just pick this up from here. and paste, and I'll get rid of the comments that we created. So it's going to go into the source demo website. It's going to log in to it by this username and password. Then it's going to sort all the products available here by name A to Z, and then we're going to change this as we move forward. So let's see if this works. Okay. URL gets hit, and I'm expecting this page. It logs in and it's selecting name A to Z, and it's shutting down after 3 seconds. So since it all went so fast, let's try to change the value and come up with something different. How about we pick up this text instead and see what happens. So I expect that this would change from name A to Z to price low to high. So it says price low to high, and its effect could be seen on the web application. So you can do a whole lot of other stuff with the select tag here. So let's see what options are we are given by this select class. So we have select by index. Now when we use select by index, okay, so these are all the options. We were talking about select by index. So what happens is that in these drop downs, all of these values are in the form of a list. So this is index 0, this is index 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So if I choose select by index, and if I pass in maybe select let's say 2, so it's going to select the third value from the top. If I go and do it at 3, then it's going to select the fourth value from the top, right? So this is what select by index does. And let's see what else we got here. So we've got select by value. And again, it's the value that that are present inside the drop down. So whichever value text that you're going to pass in, it's going to select that. We also have deselect by the same option. So if the values are pre-selected, they're going to get deselected with these options. Okay, so that was the first part of first topic. We've covered the select method. Now let's talk about the JS executors. Now JS executors, or the JavaScript executors, are used to mostly interact with elements. They're not specifically related to Selenium, but they could be used alternatively when we try to interact with other web elements on our web applications or websites, right? So JS executors interact. Executor interact, I'm going to name it that, and I don't need an interrupted exception at this point. So okay, so it's going to hit this URL again, and let's try to get some code that we used earlier for for clicking and all that stuff. Well, yeah, let's try to log in again and see. Now the URL gets hit itself. We're going to need JavaScript executor. We're going to name it login click equals to this. So this is an object that needs to be that needs to be in place with the driver to work with the with the click action. So I need login click dot execute script. I'm going to pass in the argument 0 dot click and /. Now it's actually looking for an element or maybe a locator to click on, right? So I'm going to use this and let's try equals login button equals this, and I'm going to place this login button here, right? And let's keep the login procedure as is, and let's try to execute this. So okay, there is an error. It says arguments 0 is not identified. It's supposed to be arguments. And there we go, it has happened so fast. Let's try to stop it for 3 seconds again, and it's going to ask for an interrupted exception. Let's try to run it again. And there we go. Okay, so I hope these two methods were understandable for the viewers, but there is one distinction when we try to interact with elements when it that comes with JavaScript executors only, and that distinction goes to the scroll part. You cannot actually do a direct scroll up or scroll down with Selenium, but that is achievable with JSExecutor, and let's try to do that since it's clicking, and let's see if okay, so we do have a scroll here, and let's try to log into this page and scroll directly to the bottom of this page and see how it goes, right? So I'm going to just pick up this bit of code here and replace it all here, and oh, I'm sorry, so I'll just replace all of that stuff here. And JavaScript executor class is already in place. Let's name this guy. I don't need this anymore, so I'll just get rid of it. Let's just call it scroller, and scroller dot execute script, and let's see if it gives me some suggestions if I want to scroll down the page. Argument scroll. So let's try to do a scroll into view first, and that means that if after logging in I'm on this screen and I want to scroll to a particular element, let's assume to this LinkedIn button. Was it visible? Okay, it's not visible before, so let's try to get its XPath first, and so what's going to happen, that it's going to scroll down to this particular icon, so I'm just going to pass it here. And since it's an XPath, I'll just give it an XPath expression inside this, and this will scroll to this point here once it's going to log back in. So once it gets back here, gets to here, I want to scroll back up as well. So I'll try to scroll back up by this expression, It says Windows, scroll by 0 to now. These numbers are 0 and 100 are actually points in the axis. So this is the x-axis, that means the horizontal scroll, and this is the y-axis, that means the vertical scroll. So I'm going to give it a -1000 value, or maybe, so no, actually the positive 1000 value. So once my scroller goes down, it's going to stay there for about 2 seconds, let's say about 3 seconds, and it's going to come back up. Now these are important part of the automation testing, because there will be instances where once you're working on your application, you will find yourself scrolling your web page back and forth. So that is how you can actually achieve it. So let's try to run this and see how it goes. Let me just check the URL first. Okay, the URL seems fine. It's going to log in first, and it's going to scroll down and come back up, and let's see if it goes right. Okay, we're having an issue here. Okay, so it's not. Let's try to get a different XPath than the one we used before. So you see that it scrolls so fast down. It's going to wait for 3 seconds and go back up and then closes. Let me just place some minus here and see the behavior. So because it didn't actually came back up, it was supposed to come back up. So there you can see that now it is coming back up. So what's happening here is it's logging in with this script. It scrolls down to the footer, and then after 3 seconds it comes back up. Now these value allows you to handle your scroll from top to bottom, or bottom to top, or from left to right, or right to left, and you can handle that with these values, right? Okay, now the third topic of discussion was headless browser. Now what are headless browsers? Headless browsers are those browsers which do not have a graphical user interface. Now how do we achieve the headless browser? It's like this. So you need Chrome options object, and you can name it anything you want. You can also handle a lot of other things related to browser, like maybe maximizing it, maybe the screen size that you want to work with, the resolution of your browsers, if your browser is zoomed in or zoomed out. So all could be handled with these add arguments functions. So I'm going to use the headless. Oh, I'm sorry. And that option instance needs to be passed inside your Chrome driver instance, right? Okay, so now I have enabled the headless option here. So let's try to execute the already present script and see how it goes. So now remember, it was taking 9 seconds before when we were using it with our browser instance, but now since we're using headless, it should take much lesser time. And okay, so it's taking 11 seconds. That's funny. Again, now this instance is helpful when you're actually running multiple scripts, multiple tests. Let's assume you have 100 of test cases that you need to execute. Now once you if you wish to execute 100 of test cases on your browser, and there are other tasks at hand that you need to complete, right? So you cannot get interrupted by browser being opening and disturbing you while you're working on something else. So headless are useful in those scenarios where you want your test execution to continue while you're doing something else, because there are other instances where your test execution might take hours or maybe 2 hours to complete the whole test run. So to handle that, headless is a very useful option in that particular scenario, right? Okay, lastly we're going to look into action chains. We actually did action chains while we were doing the drag and drop thing. You can actually refer back to that video of mine, and you'll get to know much about that. But the reason I'm mentioning action chains in this video is to compare between JavaScript and the action chains. So let's try to do an action chains anyway, and since you've been following this video, I hope you've been following this video since the beginning. So since I mentioned the JavaScript executor scroller, now scroll into view this here. Now this could be achieved with action chains as well, and let's see how that works. Action chains part 2, let's call it part 2. And okay, I'm sorry, let's get that. Let's log in again. This is not the best way to actually handle this. We could just create a different login method and we can just keep calling it. I'm going to cover that in my separate course when I'll be talking about the basics of Java, solely Java. Then I'll talk about the reusability of code and why is it important. Okay, so for now let's just keep it okay. So it logs in at this point, and I want to do an action chains action here. Action chains action, come on. Right, so action dot, there are all these options that you could work with. Let's action dot, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to move to element. Now see that, as you can see, so this was scroll into view and this is move to element, and they're actually going to work exactly same way. They should. So I'm just going to pick this up from here and I'm going to pass it in here. So this should perform the exactly same way. Okay, so it should log in, and okay, so I've got an issue of the brackets here. There we go. Now it's going to move to this element and it should move to the footer, and I want to I want to move back up. I want to move to element again, and let's see if we have anything that we can move back to. Let's move back to, is it okay? Yeah, so it's not draggable. Move back to this ID, right? So driver dot find element to find element by ID, and I'm going to pass in this ID here. So, and I'm going to do a perform statement, right? So, but again, holding the script is important here just to see the difference. So it's going to go down again, and it's going to come back up. So again, now actions command here is associated with Selenium, while JavaScript is not. So now these are the two of the options that you could use at your disposal, any way you want. So I want to comment my headless option at this point, because I want to see the behavior of how my actions work. So now the action chains, actually, as I mentioned earlier, as you can see, so action chains is relevant to Python. In Java it's just actions, right? Okay, let's try to run this one more time and see the behavior. I expect the behavior to be same. It logs in, it's at the bottom, and after 2 seconds it goes back up the scroll, and it is behaving exactly the same way this JavaScript executor did. Now that's all for this video. I hope you enjoy my content. Please do like and subscribe and comment on my videos. Also, I'm going to start working on quiz section at the end of every video. So from the next video you will be receiving those quizzes, and I hope you guys enjoy my content.